Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
You may be asking, why is it so hard to find quality employees for my business? When running a business, you face new challenges every day. Finding the right candidates and keeping them during this time is extremely critical to your success. Every business should be able to find the right candidates with a proven system and retain them by coaching them to success. The Success in Hiring Framework gives you the tools you need to attract, engage, and retain quality team members so that you can move your business to the next level. With my Success in Hiring system for business owners, you will learn how to recruit, hire, and retain the right fit for your unique business. I created this system after all my experience as a business owner with the same struggles as you. Best of all, it is free. Why do I do that? Because my purpose in life is to help business owners reach their full potential. Go to chargepodcast.com and click on the link, Success in Hiring, to start you on the path to hiring the right people for your business. Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back. Can you believe 2022 is going fast and it's already the second month of the year? And I'm telling you, I'm excited to bring different guests with different viewpoints. That's our goal on this podcast because it makes you think as a user. So today I've got a guest on, Ralph. He's going to share with us a little bit of what he does, but I want you to tell us, if you would, what problem will you help solve for our Chargers?
Gary, I'm absolutely happy to be on the show. So the problem I think that I will help solving the Chargers is how to build a corporate culture that drives success and at the same time makes the workplace something employees and management can be equally proud of.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one because I love culture. So you're right in my area. So I'm excited about this. But our Chargers always like to know, what are three questions that we're going to be able to ask you that you're going to be able to help answer today for our Chargers?
Well, one of the questions is definitely, why is my driving vision to make soulless companies a thing of the past? Right? That's a key question that I'm dealing with. Second question, I think, is why do leaders often talk about culture but don't walk the talk? And as you asked for three, the third one I would think is, how do companies best retain key employees?
Oh, and
that's a topic today, huh?
Yeah, that's a hot topic today. So this is going to be a great podcast. I knew it would be. That's why we wanted to have you on. Ralph Shutt is the author of Building Corporate Soul. He developed the Soul System. It's a framework that powers culture and success for any business. After 2 decades with McCann Erickson in various executive roles, he was a founding partner of Spark 44. It was an innovative, industry-first joint venture with Jaguar Land Rover. His driving vision, I love how you say that driving vision is to make soulless companies a thing of the past. Ralph, it is great to have you on the Charge Podcast. Welcome.
Hey, Gary, let's go.
I am excited to share with you. And you said right out the gate, one of your questions that you were going to answer is, why is your driving vision to make soulless companies a thing of the past? Why is that your driving vision?
Well, I think all of us who've been around for quite a while have seen a lot as we were doing our corporate lives, have experienced a lot ourselves and from colleagues and friends and what they talked about. And I myself have seen it with the agencies that I've been working with and many of the clients that I've been working with. And after a while, you get a sense of companies where the corporate culture is intact, has the full integrity. And sometimes you see it right at the gate. There's something is not really as it should be. And I was very lucky. I was asked to be one of the co-founders of this unique joint venture agency, Smart 44, back in 2011. And we had the luxury, and I really call it a luxury, to build a company from scratch and to think about the corporate culture we intended to have, that we wanted to make sure the company would instill. In my soul system, I call this the spirit, the intended corporate culture. So what we want as leaders, the company to be. And the notion of soul and the soul of a company, as you know, I'm coming from Germany, and there's a saying here, which is about he or she is the soul of the company, right? So somebody that really embodies that soul. And I think it's actually not just this person or that person that does it. There's actually an opportunity for the entire company to feel the soul that it has. And when I started to write the book, I think one of the key questions was, well, there's lots of nice talk about corporate culture, but actually, is corporate culture really driving success? I think that is one of the key questions. And the answer is obviously yes. That's why you're doing what you're doing. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's why many of us think it's something that leaders really need to understand. And I thought my vision to make soulless companies a thing of the past is right on the money.
Yeah, I think so. And really, you think about it, I think you said you started in 2011. Back then, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. But you think really in 10, 11 years, that has changed completely. And we've really seen that change this last year, because companies that have no soul, I mean, they're losing people right and left. The Great Resignation has been here. And there's a lot of people now trying to figure out, what do I need to do differently to make that? So have you seen kind of an uptick in that area, Ralph, in your area, with people reaching out that in the past, thought this was more one of them warm fuzzies? Because in the past, let's be honest, they thought culture a lot of times was the gimmick side of things. But instead, it's really what's driving key employees. And it really kind of comes to a question I want to ask you, but it has to come culture, I believe, from the leaders. They can't just dictate culture. I'm sure you believe in that. But how do companies really talk about culture, but then when they don't walk the talk?
Yeah, absolutely. And
there's a challenge.
Yeah, there is a big challenge. And you mentioned the Great Resignation, so people leaving companies in spades. And I was shocked. I was really shocked when I saw a piece of research that McKinsey & Company had done just recently. I think it was October last year. And they looked into why employees are leaving, and at the same time, what employers think why employees are leaving.
Yeah.
And you couldn't make this up, right? This is incredible. So the top three reasons why employees are leaving is, number one, they don't feel valued by their organization. Number two, they don't feel valued by their manager. And number three, they don't feel a sense of belonging. All right, pretty clear. It's a very clear picture. And if you look at these three statements, they're all on the soft side of things, right? They're not the hard facts. Now, you contrast that with what employers say, and it couldn't be any more different, right? So employers say the number one reason is, well, they've been just looking for a better job. What a great idea, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, they might want to have some more money, so inadequate compensation. And the third reason, that might be the case every now and then, is a health issue that drives people to change. But if you look at the soft factors that employees consider why they're leaving, if you really think about them, they're actually easy to solve. It's not rocket science. All of this, everything that you're talking about, everything that I'm talking about, is not rocket science at all. A solid, strong corporate culture, and the way I call it is a corporate soul, is something that is achievable, and many companies have been able to do it. So it is something that you can do. So let's go do it.
Yeah, it really makes it. It's not exactly, I love the word you use. It's not as hard as people think, but they have to implement it because still so many organizations are missing the boat. They just think people are showing up for that career, that job. They're showing up for other reasons. And I think I read on your website, part of what you talk about in the corporate soul is shared purpose, shared understanding, and shared behaviors. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I think it plays into this about they have to walk the talk.
Absolutely, they have to walk the talk. And you just mentioned when we founded the company, 2011, I think that was about the time when the purpose discussion really took off, right? And it's been around for at least the last 10 years, probably a bit longer. And I was always wondering when I joined discussions about purpose, because very often it felt purpose was the thing, and once you've sorted that, everything else would just happen, just miraculously,
Right.
would fall into place. And we all know that's not the case. So a purpose is a critical thing, and you've got to start with that. There's no question about it. I've got no issue with purpose, but purpose is a means to an end. It's not the end. And what I've seen too often in many discussions at many levels and with many partners is they think, or often it is thought, that once you got your purpose statement and it's well crafted, it's perfectly written, and it sounds great when somebody talks it out. Well, actually, that's kind of on the marathon, you've got your first kilometer or your first mile, as you would say.
Right.
Where actually, and that's why I call it the shared purpose is at the center of it all. It needs to be shared by the management team. So all executives need to have full buy-in. And you see that and you read that in many statements that, well, sometimes it feels like some executives don't even know the purpose of their company.
Yeah.
And once you got that, then you got to share it inside the company. So it's a double sharing, actually. And you got to share it with everyone inside the company, everybody up across the ranks, the front line, middle management, everybody, the workers, the factories, whatever the business you have. And then also make sure all your stakeholders are aware of it, because it becomes critical, as we will see in the next stage. So the key to me is the shared purpose. I would call it the first level. The second level is what I call the shared understanding. And shared understanding, to me, are all the key elements of corporate strategy in this regard. So I'm talking vision, mission, values, and spirit. I already talked about spirit as the intended corporate culture. Right. I think that is a very important piece of the equation, that you think about what kind of culture do we want to see and feel and experience inside our walls. And third, we get to the shared behaviors. And I think I'm talking about behaviors. I think you're talking about habits. Mm-hmm. And I think there's quite a bit of overlap. So what I mean by behaviors is, how are things done in this place? And how are things done consistently, so that everybody who joins very quickly understands how the place ticks, right? And once that is clear, and once that is in sync with the purpose and the vision, mission, and values and the spirit, I think you are right on the right way to make it happen. And to me, when I wrote the book, obviously I looked at all the research that was available on the topic, and you find lots of reasons why this should work. There's O.C. Tanner in the US, right? And they got the Global Culture Report and the Culture Index. And they've established with their research that what I call a company with soul is what they call a company with a thriving culture. And they say a thriving culture or thriving cultures are 13 times more likely to have highly engaged employees, and an 8 times higher incidence of great work, and a double likelihood to have increased revenues. So that's all on the positive side. Let's look at the negative side. At the same time, employees in thriving cultures are experiencing 3 times less burnout situations, and the companies are 3 times less likely to have layoffs. What a wonderful world, right?
Yeah.
So you look at those facts and you contrast that with what EI has done in their business case for purpose, where they've interviewed executives across the world. And 89% of these executives say an organization with a shared purpose will have employee satisfaction. So wonderful. You think, bingo, they got it, right? It's happening. But then you walk through the questions and get down a little bit further. And the same executives say, 50% of them say our organization's strategy is reflective of our sense of purpose. In other words, half of them don't see it. And less than 50%, 46% say my organization has a strong sense of purpose, and only 38% say our staff have a clear understanding of all of that. So you put all these things together and you see there is an issue with commitment at the top, with clarity at the top, and then there's a big issue with what you call the habits, is bringing it to what happens inside an organization every day in every area.
Yeah. And that's what becomes so important for those leaders, as we would say, the shared understanding and really that shared behaviors, because otherwise, if it's not modeled, people are going to say, yeah, this is another one of those, initiatives that they had up top. And, it just gets thrown out. Right out the gate, and becomes the key. And I love watching, I looked some of on your website, you talk about also why is it so important is, 199% in market value, it helps 2.4% more than the standard S&P for people that have.
It's also 2.4% is 2.4 times.
Yeah. 2.4 times. Yeah.
So
what a difference.
Think about it for a second. NASDAQ was the index of the big indices over the past years. Of course, we've seen the tech rally. All of us, and NASDAQ delivered 180% return over the 5 years from 2016 to 2020. And the Seoul index delivered 199, as you just mentioned. And you look at S&P, which was 83, and Dow Jones, which was 75. Yeah. So there is a business case for strong corporate cultures. It was, for me, was critical to have that rationale added to the mix, because it's not just about let's do this and this is good and it makes things easier and better. It actually is what I call in the subline of the book, to power culture and success. Yeah. This is not about just having a great, nice culture where everybody feels good. Nothing wrong with people feeling good, but the focus of the business is not that everybody feels good, it's that something is being created. And it shows that people who feel engaged and satisfied inside the company are more likely to deliver those results, which every leader actually wants.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a difference for everything. It's bottom line is one of them, but that third question that you said you would answer, and I know it answers this question, but I want you to tell where from your side of it, from the Chargers, how do companies retain key employees? Because we know if you have a great culture, it does the engagement we've talked about, but this becomes part of the whole equation. So now when you're keeping your best people, it makes a difference for a culture as well as an organization. And you can see why the bottom line changes and why it increases so much. But
absolutely. I think we all know that the cost of hiring is significant.
Yes.
And we all know that losing people brings distraction, of course, and brings high costs. And in the US, you have a usual 2 weeks notice period, which is, from where I come from, kind of nothing, right? Yeah. You've got at least a month, usually 3, sometimes even more than that. So you want to avoid that distraction. And I'm coming back to the McKinsey study that I referred to earlier on, right? So think about it. Sense of belonging, being valued by the organization, being valued by the manager. So if you're a manager inside a company, you want to make sure that your employees feel exactly that. And that doesn't mean that you're not demanding from them, that you're not really asking for high performances. Of course, there's no question about it. But at the same time, giving them that sense of belonging, giving them that sense of ownership is so critical. And I got one great example, which I quoted in the book because I think it's so obvious and so clear. And it comes back to the model in terms of shared understanding and a shared purpose. That model is that example is LinkedIn. The reason I'm using LinkedIn as an example, I think I haven't seen much better anywhere else in terms of the clarity of thinking and the implementation in the business. So LinkedIn's purpose is to facilitate professional networking. That's as clear as it gets. So, yeah. I mean, any questions? Probably not. The vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So there's a clear benefit. So everybody inside the company knows this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. And the mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So whatever you do, better adds to that promise. And then I think their values are just superb, because very often, I mean, you've seen this, I've seen this, values feel a bit superficial, right? It could be for anyone, anywhere, anytime. And actually, if values are really an integral part of a company, you see it immediately. And LinkedIn's values, I think, are a perfect example of a combination of inward and outward bound focus of these values. So the first two values give a clear sense of direction for anybody at LinkedIn about how they're expecting you to act. So they say members first. Okay, so the clear customer centricity. The second one says relationships matter. And the next two look at how to operate inside the company. And it says, be open, be honest, and constructive. And the last three are about how to raise the bar, right? So next one says demand excellence. The next one says take intelligent risks. The final one says act like an owner. If you hear all of these seven, you get a very clear picture in your head of what that company must feel like inside. And everybody that I talked to who's been working at LinkedIn says, well, that's exactly how we're operating. And that's what you call habits, what I call shared behavior, is what makes a great company culture. And that is a company ultimately with soul.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I appreciate you sharing that, Ralph. And one thing I think I need to say, because, I have some small business owners here, and the thing I want to tell them is we've talked about corporate, but this same thing applies to a small business, because if you can get these things working, number one, it'll help you grow not to be a small business. You'll be a larger business, because if you do this throughout your organization, I mean, it creates synergies. I've had it in my own company when I was in the wireless industry. We grew from 2 people to 150 employees. And it was because I shared what our purpose was. And, we talked about those behaviors, what they needed to be, but we had that shared purpose and, kind of really set that out. And I just want to tell somebody, because if they're sitting here listening thinking, well, this doesn't really apply to my business, you're wrong. You can apply it right down into your level. And his book will still apply. Yeah, he's giving you corporate examples, but the thing is, this works throughout. And it's not the thing I'm tired of hearing people say. It's not about all these warm and fuzzy things about culture. Yeah, that's great if they got a tabletop or whatever, ping pong in their room. No, it's about really engaging those people. And I love what you said about accountability, because really that's what people want. They know what's expected, so they're willing to deliver that. And a lot of times they deliver more. Because
absolutely. And I think it's at the end a question of trust, right?
Yeah.
So the book was inspired by many emails and messages I received when I stepped down as CEO. And one of the peers at the time wrote to me, so you are the leader, so you are the kind of leader that makes us accomplish things that we didn't know we're even capable of.
Yeah.
And that's because I was demanding. I was asking a lot of everyone, but I wasn't asking impossible things. I was asking things that I thought they'd be able to do this, and they might not even have thought about it at times, but finally they did. And I've received many of these messages, and it shows you this is not about table tennis and free fruit and free coffee and what have you. There's no example of table tennis and fresh fruit and free coffee and all of that stuff in the book, because that's not what makes a great culture. That's nice. There's nothing wrong with it, and you can do it, and whatever it is that makes people feel welcome at the place, do it, no problem. But that's not the core of it. And as you quite rightly said, it's a framework. It's applicable to any company as of 2 employees. If you're on your own, you might not need it. But the moment you go beyond yourself, you will need it, and it's applicable across industries. There is no difference whether you're a doctor and it's a hospital, or you're a small retail shop with 15 employees. You better have that in place, because if they know what this is all about, they will deliver a better service. You will have happier customers. You will have better business.
Yeah. And they want to be part of that growth. And man, that's really creates magic. And it's what you said about shared purpose. And it becomes with that vision, but the CEO has to give that vision and drive that vision. And then through his leaders, that has to be driven throughout the organization, throughout. When that happens, it's really about creating magic. Then the magic happens.
Yeah, and the magic, I think there's one component to that magic that leaders are not taking advantage of as they could. Because as you know, all leaders, in your company, in my company, everybody you talk to, everybody's dealing with constraints, right?
Yeah.
You either don't have enough time, you don't have enough budget, you don't have enough people, you name it. So there's always an issue. Something's always missing. And everything comes with a cost, and you got to manage the cash flow and all of these things. It's just the reality of every day in a small business, in a medium business, and in a large business, right? And there's one thing that leaders can tap into, and it doesn't cost a single penny, and that's commitment. Mm. But in order to gain that commitment, it's a bit like trust, you got to earn it. But commitment is much, much easier to gain, right? And again, there's nothing fuzzy. You just have to be clear. You have to align your team on what we're supposed to be doing. And you've got to bring them into the tent. You've got to have them participate in what is it that we're doing and how are we doing it, and then let's go and really rock the boat and make it happen. You have to create ownership and accountability. I think that is essential. But you better also document the goals. So it's not like, remember we said something the other night. No, it's not about that. It's about, that's where we're going. This is how we're going to be doing it. And let's do it. And then, man, when it happens, you better celebrate so that everybody feels part of the success. And then the next day you can start whatever is next. But you have a great opportunity because commitment comes for free. Everybody, I would say, everybody who joins a company or is working in the company is happy to commit, right? I mean, I don't know that many people who actually refuse to be part of something, right?
Right.
But very often they feel excluded. So you've got to find ways so that inside the company there are no silos, and you get these things organized so that commitment can happen and people go the extra mile. And as the OC Tanner research says, you're likely to double even your revenue. So happy days.
Yeah, exactly. And that commitment, really, it's about curating a team. And, I love sports analogies, and it's about creating a winning team. Like you said, when there's a big win, you celebrate it, but then you go back to work the next day and you create that, because any winning team, even the ones that win the biggest games, there's another season. So it's even if you're at the end of your year and you've had a great year, then it's about creating that same commitment to go into the next year. And when you do that, really success happens. Ralph, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise in this area. And it's been fun kind of learning more from my side of it, from the corporate side. And it's just so amazing to me. It doesn't matter if it's corporate or small business, or that single solopreneur. They have to do some of the same things. They may not have employees, but they better have a shared purpose of their purpose, what they're trying to do, the behaviors that they have to really adopt. So really appreciate you sharing that. We're going to have to move on to the recharge round because I have 2 questions I ask every guest, and I want to put you on the spot with those same questions because, our podcast is named Charge, and that's an acronym for Create Habits Around Real Goals Every Day. What habit do you think has led to success in your life?
I think the habit is something that I learned very early on in, I think, one of my first jobs, probably in the trainee phase. I had the real great luck to be surrounded with people who showed me in real life that believing in people and giving them an opportunity to grow is something that actually pays off big time for everyone, for the one who shares that opportunity and for the one who takes the opportunity and runs. And so that's become a habit of delegating enormously. And surrounding myself with people who are better experts and know more about that particular piece than I do myself. And I've learned immensely, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I love that one because I'm working on a book right now, Ralph, and my bottom of the pyramid is the people, because, in culture, it starts there. So I'll let you know as we kind of continue to build on it. But, when you believe in people, that's when it really lifts off everyone, not only themselves, but also the others around them each and every time. My next question, and kind of our final question here, is if you had one do-over in your life, one maybe mistake that you had that you wanted to do over, what would it be?
Well, when it comes to my professional life, and I already mentioned that I had the luck to be surrounded with great leaders in the beginning, but that wasn't always the case. And especially when you're in the middle of your career, it sometimes is challenging to put yourself up to situations where you're being asked to do things that you think are not what you should be doing. And I think the do-over would probably be that there would have been 1 or 2 situations where I should have been more clear with the leaders that I've been working with at the time to share my thinking. And that do-over, I think, led to a belief that you better don't surround yourself with naysayers. You want people in your group, in your team, that have no issue to say no to whatever you think, because the no usually gets you further ahead. And it sparks another discussion. And no, don't worry if you're wrong. There's nothing wrong being wrong if you recognize it, because then you can correct it.
Yeah, that's a great one, because if you have everybody saying yes to you and you think you're the smartest person in the room, there's probably a problem because it doesn't get you to the results that you really want. So that is some great insight there. I truly appreciate you sharing that. Ralph, before we go, why don't you share how they could connect with you? And if you want to share your website, and I think you have a offer that you're willing to share your book with our listeners, and we'll have that all in the show notes for them that they can go get.
Yes, absolutely. It's my pleasure. So Actually, today I was very happy because, COVID hit everybody, and we all read about how it hits supply chains and everything. So like 2 weeks ago, I learned that my favorite publication date for the book, which was my lucky number, was supposed to move because of paper deliveries. But today I heard from the publishing house that actually it's all going to happen, because my lucky number is 22-22.
Oh.
22nd of February this year is when Building Corporate Soul will be available at retailers and online stores everywhere. So Building Corporate Soul, you can basically join me and sign up for the newsletter. It's on buildingcorporatesoul.com. You can follow me on Twitter, and you can follow me on LinkedIn. And I'm very grateful for all connections. And I really appreciate listeners who check in and connect, because I also want to hear their stories about soul in their company and how it happens and how it goes. And obviously, I'd be most happy to share a free book, which obviously you'll be in charge, actually, to identify who gets it. And looking forward for everybody to join the movement of making soulless companies a thing of the past, because everybody can start doing it as a leader, and everybody who is not in a leadership position, but thinks that there's work to be done, actually can use Building Corporate Soul as a tool to help their leaders understand that there is something in it for everyone.
Excellent. Well, we will have on the chargepodcast.com how you can kind of enter in that to get the chance to get the book. So go to there, and we'll have all those links to his website and the book. And this is going to be launched right around the time that he is releasing his book. So it's going to be an exciting time for him. And I know what it's like to launch a book and all the work. And we truly appreciate your time, because we know how busy you are. Plus, there's a little bit of time difference between Germany and the United States here. And he's doing this really later in the evening and stuff. So I can't thank Ralph enough. But it's been a great conversation. And I'm so glad that you've been able to join us here on the Charge Podcast.
Gary, it's been my pleasure.
Chargers, now, I always tell you, well, how are you going to take action? Well, he gave us a roadmap there for us to look at. So that's what I want you to do, is look back and really think about, is your company, does it have a soul? Or is it soulless right now? You can change that. I talked to a business owner just the other day, and we talked in December, and he's making some changes, and he's trying to create a different culture than he had before. And really, it's about changing your mindset. And that's really what it comes to. You got to start there as that individual if you're the owner. And then if you're just a leader in an organization, you may say, well, I don't own the company, I can't do it. You can do it within your area or department. So I really want you to take a look at that and give a hard look at, do you have a shared purpose within your team? Do you have some shared behaviors there? Is there a shared understanding of what you're trying to create? Ralph gave us the roadmap. Now it's about us going out and implementing that roadmap. Make sure you check out his book. Again, that's at buildingcorporatesoul.com. We'll have it on the website there at chargepodcast.com. So you'll be able to link right to getting his information. I've checked out the website, some great information on his website. So please do that. And Chargers, come back next week, because we're going to have another great guest for you. Now, if you know someone that needs to listen to this podcast, make sure you like it and then share it with 3 other people, because that will help them learn from the podcast also. We'll look forward to seeing you here next week. Make it a great day. See you later, Chargers.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.